Before I speak, I must pay my respects to my elders in the past, present, and emerging. I must stand before you as a proud Aboriginal man belonging to the oldest living culture on the planet. 2,500 tribes and over 700 languages in this country. I grew up from Shepparton. My cultural makeup is Yorta Yorta, Doolan Yagan clan of the Yalupna Islands. It's also Wurundjeri or Wurundjeri through my grandmother, Violet McCrow Briggs. And that also connects me to the Bunwurrung people of south side of the river and the Melbourne area. The land in which I stand on today is the Wurundjeri people of the Wurrung language group. The Centre for Cultural Diversity and Ageing also sits on the Wurundjeri people's country and always pays respects to the traditional owners and the Indigenous Aboriginal community in the work that they do. As a kid growing up, my elders were held very close to us and spent a lot of time with many elders, being out on country and connecting me to those stories and gifting me the knowledge and the wisdom that they have. So our elders are very, very important to us. And I'd also like to pay my respects to the elders of the lands in which you are situated on in watching this Welcome to Country. Womanjika, Wurundjeri, Balak, Yemen, Gundi, Big. Welcome.
The centre would like to all aged care consumers in Australia to experience inclusive and accessible care. And our purpose is to build the capacity of Australian aged care providers to deliver services that are welcoming and inclusive and accessible. Our service areas are inclusive practice training and workshops, such as this one, capacity building to promote cultural inclusion and equity, which means all the resources on our website, and diversity advice and consulting, which we do for the department and other service providers. And lastly, the Centre for Cultural Diversity in Ageing is supported by Benetas and funded by the Australian Department of Health and Aged Care through the Partners in Culturally Appropriate Care PCAC program. Quick statistics for everyone. There are over 420 languages spoken in Australia, including 183 Indigenous languages, and this is from SBS. The top 5 languages used at home other than English are Mandarin, Arabic, Vietnamese, Cantonese, and Punjabi, and this is from the census 2021. Around 37% of people over 65 years old were born overseas. And the 2021 census data collected information from more than 120 religions and faiths. In Department of Health and Aging data from 2020, around 28% of people using home care and 20% of people using permanent residential and respite care were from CALD backgrounds. In this case, the Department of Health defined CALD as people born overseas in countries other than UK, Ireland, New Zealand, Canada, South Africa, and USA. There's also a culturally diverse aged care workforce, and 21% of the total direct care workforce identify as being from a CALD background. And personal care workers account for 91% of all CALD direct workers. Today, we have 2 presenters. Kiarra Martindale is an accredited practicing dietitian, having completed her bachelor's of biomedical science and master of dietetic at Deakin University. Kiarra has a background in aged care, anthropometry, gut health, and FODMAPs. Kiarra has experience in policies and procedures, menus, recipes, products development, and implementing IDDSI and food fortification strategies as a senior dietitian while managing contracting dietitians and speech pathology organizations nationally. In addition, Kiarra has experience providing medical nutrition therapy and dietetic support. Caroline Lucas is the General Manager, Hotel Services at Bolton Clarke, Australia's largest independent non-for-profit aged care provider. After emigrating to Australia, Caroline started her career with Delaware, North Australia, and spent 10 years as general manager overseeing hospitality services in New South Wales, Victoria, and Queensland, including Parliament House in Canberra and various large sporting venues. She joined TriCare in 1998, managing their production kitchen, where she worked closely with residential aged care providers, Queensland Health, and Meals on Wheels. Caroline joined RSL Care, now Bolton Clarke, as food services manager in 2015 and was appointed general manager hotel services Bolton in 2020.
Thank you very much for having Oscar Care Group here as part of this wonderful series today. What we'll be covering: diversity in Australia, some aged care quality standards, special events and celebrations, and then a little bit into nutritional considerations, co-designing multicultural recipes, Oscar Care Group diversity, and then incorporating culturally diverse foods and making foods more culturally diverse. All right, so Australia is incredibly diverse as represented by the pie chart. Nearly 30% of our population was born overseas by the end of 2021. There has been an increase of about 4% in those born overseas over the age of 65 years between the years 2000 to 2020. So if we just have a look more into the quality standards, they have increased the focus on choice, risk, and quality of life, including respect for cultural, spiritual, and psychological needs. Providing care and services that are culturally safe is imperative to demonstrate choice, independence, inclusion, and respect for consumers of culturally and linguistically diverse, so the called, backgrounds. So if we have a little bit of a closer look into some of the standards. So standard 1, consumer dignity and choice. So really having a culture of inclusion and respect for all consumers. Care and services are culturally safe. If we have a look at standard 4, being services and supports for daily living. So really trying to provide services and supports that meet consumers' emotional, psychological, and spiritual needs. And then if we have a look at standard 7, so human resources, and really just looking at menu options, considering the cultural and religious preferences of the consumers while meeting their nutritional needs. And that's a really big focus for dietitians looking into menus, menu development, and menu reviews. And then, of course, also acknowledging and celebrating special occasions that relate to diverse cultural and religious backgrounds. So, for example, Chinese New Year. And here are some other special events and celebrations. Of course, there's so many more to be mentioned, but here are just a couple. So if we just have a look at, say, Lent. So Lent is usually a period 40 days prior to Easter. And this may include avoiding meat. So, for example, chicken, beef, pork, lamb on Ash Wednesday and Good Friday, as well as all Fridays during Lent. And another thing that we can look at is Diwali, for example. So this is the Hindu festival of light over a period of 5 days. It is also celebrated by other religions and people all around the world. And it is a little bit different to Lent, for example, where there might be a bit of fasting or avoiding meat. In the case of Diwali, there is a lot of feasting. Something that's quite special and spectacular is the second day of festivities, which is typically buying and sharing sweets, which, you know, being dietitians in aged care, we love to really focus on, and it's a great opportunity to get some extra high energy and high protein foods while celebrating such a special occasion. What happens if culturally appropriate food options are not available to residents who are from culturally diverse communities? So this may result in reduced interest in meal times, reduced oral intake, loss of weight, and risk of malnutrition. This can also diminish a resident's sense of belonging, pride, and connection to their cultural background and lifetime memories. How to co-design multicultural recipes? Let's ask our team of aged care dietitians. So at Oscar Care Group, here is our dietetic team. And the diversity within our own team is quite significant, with varying languages spoken, being born in different countries, and influenced by the varying cultural backgrounds of our parents and our grandparents. How do our dietitians create a multicultural menu? Well, of course, there's so much to talk about and not enough time in this session. But if I was to highlight some points, certainly focusing on personalising each menu in each aged care home according to the population of the residents, speaking to residents for favourite foods and recipes, cultural and special days, really trying to understand residents' background and culture. And as dietitians, we do a lot of research, speaking to residents and their families, trying to understand how strict residents are with specific dietary restrictions related to their culture, encouraging residents to make suggestions and contribute their own input towards the menu. Certainly considering themed dinner nights to incorporate into a multicultural menu, and traditional feasts at certain times of the year, and celebrate, with the food, and working closely with the chef to ensure that cultural foods are offered in each aged care home. If we have a look at how dietitians work with residents of varying cultural backgrounds, similarly, making no assumptions, speaking to residents and finding out what foods they enjoyed cooking and eating, what are their favourite foods, using interpreters to communicate with residents as required, and again, speaking to families and residents about specific food preferences and their favourite foods. And, again, throwing ourselves into more research and really trying to understand any cultural or religious practices and beliefs so that we are respecting and including residents within our day-to-day dietetics and incorporating and including into a multicultural menu and recipes. Culturally competent care is a cornerstone of eliminating ethnic disparities in healthcare. Food and nutrition services that consider cultural preferences are identified as important components of the continuum of care. Culture has a significant impact on food selection and food preferences, and we generally see that older population groups may express greater preferences for the foods of their traditional culture. And there is certainly a greater desire for the aged care homes that can demonstrate a commitment to culturally safe and diverse food options. It is important that all residents, no matter their food preferences, are given the best opportunity to achieve an optimal nutritional intake, a sense of belonging within their aged care home, and the opportunity to enjoy the food they consume. How to make food more culturally diverse? There are so many things to cover under this topic, and I will do my best to cover as many as possible. Certainly, in smaller homes, you can bring in culturally appropriate meals from an external provider. You may be able to freeze certain culturally appropriate meals and offer them as an option to residents if they dislike the meal on offer. For meals or for homes that have more westernized main meals, you could offer a second option as a more culturally diverse option. You can plan outings to local restaurants, or, the lifestyle team can plan this, and possible food to be delivered for special occasions, and identifying special occasions and accommodating these, tailoring this to each home according to the residents within the home. Discussing the residents' likes, dislikes, and dietary customs in detail with the resident and the relatives on admission. Checking how strictly a resident follows certain customs and beliefs. For example, if a resident is vegetarian, just checking in, how detailed this is. Would they eat eggs in this vegetarian diet or not? So all of these need to be considered. Offering different eating utensils, such as chopsticks or a spoon. For residents that prefer eating with their hands, you can offer a bowl of water and a towel with meals, and certainly offering a range of traditional condiments. So, soy sauce, fish sauce, chili, vinegar, and a wide variety. All right, so we can include snack foods and beverages for mid-meal snacks, so morning tea, afternoon tea, and supper, such as Italian coffee or Turkish coffee, Asian sweets. We can encourage family to bring in traditional meals, snacks, and drinks for residents from time to time. Getting advice from residents, families, and community groups as well on traditional meals and how to prepare these, and inviting residents to join in for meal preparation. Certainly, presenting menus in a preferred language where possible is very helpful. Asking residents and their family members to provide recipes of their favourite dishes. Quite often, providing pictures can be really helpful if you can do this on a menu, and regularly conducting food-focused meetings as well for residents, including chefs and dietitians, so that we can ensure culturally appropriate foods are included on the menu, and including family members and translators to support residents as well. In summary, it's really important that we continue to reflect on the aged care quality standards and ensure that we're keeping with any changes and the currency, really, respecting consumer dignity and choice, and providing these services that meet residents' cultural and spiritual needs, and certainly embracing culture and inclusion, and really trying to understand the different cultures and traditions to be able to build successful and respectful relationships with residents. And amending the menu and the lifestyle activities to reflect culture can greatly impact the quality of life, health, and well-being of culturally diverse residents. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kiarra, for your very insightful presentation and sharing the importance of food and nutrition within our diverse cultural society. Good afternoon, I'm Caroline Lucas. I'm General Manager for Hotel Services for Bolton Clarke, and I'm here to present our award-winning project, Taste of Home. Based in Brisbane, my role is responsible for overseeing the hospitality services and catering for approximately 6,400 residents throughout our 70 homes across 5 states, with a very diverse cultural resident base. There is nothing like the smells and flavours of a favourite family meal to stimulate positive memories, promote well-being, and reflect a taste of home. Bolton Clarke's Cabrini community in Sydney, in collaboration with residents and families, has created a culturally diverse menu with on-demand meals options for residents with 23 different cultural backgrounds. Only minutes from the vibrant inner western city of Parramatta and close to Westmead Hospital, health services and transport, Bolton Clarke's Cabrini community provides a contemporary residential aged care lifestyle in a location that makes it easy to stay connected. Cabrini is a 110-bed home caring for residents from diverse cultural backgrounds, including Italian, Lebanese, Chinese, which is Mandarin and Cantonese, Filipino, Egyptian, Iranian, Fijian, Persian, German, Sri Lankan, Indian, Greek, Maltese, French, Macedonian, Malaysian, Sudanese, Hungarian, Irish, English, Spanish, and Estonian. As part of regular consultation and feedback, the catering team identified a need to provide a more flexible and inclusive range of food options to reflect the diverse cultural backgrounds of residents and create a sense of home with the comfort of familiar tastes from their families and culture. We needed to find a way to satisfy our diverse range of residents' food requirements. So we set about the task of talking to residents and family to find out what dishes they would like to see on the menu. And the menu options were co-designed with the family and residents through one-on-one meetings and group sessions. Resident surveys found 78% of our residents were satisfied with food, with feedback showing the need for culturally appropriate options. Our culturally diverse team of chefs from Nepal, India, and Australia designed a new menu and on-demand food options based on this feedback. The variety of meals created incorporated favourite recipes, flavourings, and suggested popular cultural dishes. Families provided their favourite recipes, and we sought specialty providors to supply culturally appropriate spices and ingredients. To ensure that we were providing a variety of culturally diverse menu items, we expanded our vegetarian choice and created our own Uber-style eats menu called Taste of Home. For lunch each day, we offer 3 choices, inclusive of vegetarian, and then on top of this, we now offer the Taste of Home menu. An additional 10 culturally meal choices were cooked and taste tested using traditional fresh ingredients, herbs and spices. The Taste of Home menu allows residents on a daily basis to choose culturally appropriate meals if they would like something different to eat from the menu. The meals are cooked fresh and then the snap frozen on site. These are now available in addition to the daily cooked fresh meals. Residents can now choose dishes like nasi goreng, pea and pumpkin gnocchi, lamb koftas with tabbouleh, as well as beef massaman curry. The new menu was presented to residents for feedback and results were overwhelmingly positive. Residents and family are very happy with the new menu and flavours of home menu options at Cabrini. We have noted the following since commencement of the menu. Complaints regarding meals have significantly reduced. We have seen reduction in weight loss. Residents are enjoying their meals. Positive feedback from existing residents and new admissions. The home has fresh aroma of herbs and flavours, more vegetarian options, and residents are enjoying food that reflects their culture. Taste of Home has many positive results, with examples including resident A, who is of Sri Lankan background. She had grown up eating rice and curries. During the survey, family provided us with her curry recipe, which is now on the menu. Resident A and the other residents now enjoy this special recipe, and his weight gain has been noted. Resident B is of Korean background. He often refused to eat his meals and family had to provide meals from home. Since commencement of this new menu, family chooses meals from Flavour of Home menu and he's enjoying all his meals. Dementia resident C is of Lebanese background. Daughters usually take the monthly menu home and make choices for their father. Again, weight gain has now been noticed since submission. Resident D used to get food from home or takeaway. as she prefers curries and other Sri Lankan dishes. Again, since the introduction of the Taste of Home menu, we've noticed massive reductions in this and since this commencement of menu. At the heart of the Cabrini community is courtyard with lemon and olive trees and planters full of fresh herbs. It's situated in a sunny enclosed position, ideal for sitting out with family and friends. So in addition to developing a more diverse regular menu, we've introduced a barista cart and a wood-fired pizza oven, which were commissioned in the community courtyard for social events, for meals and families. Following implementation, residents have been surveyed on satisfaction and new menu items and recipes have been implemented based on feedback. New dishes include potato and dal curry, cumin roasted vegetables, couscous, chickpea and coconut curry, and other favourites such as the Sri Lankan chicken curry. Thank you very much for letting me have this opportunity to explain our Taste of Home menu. Thank you.
I just want to refer to the questions from Lisa in terms of if people can translate their menus. So at the moment, I put a link into the chat box. Any government-funded aged care provider can access free translations in aged care. So if for any sort of materials, except if it's marketing material, you can request it. It takes a little bit of time to translate. So if you have menus, please take extra time to translate these menus. Be aware of that. Now, I have my first question. I think that goes to Kiarra. You mentioned that lack of culturally appropriate food options can lead to reduced sense of belonging. Would you like to elaborate a little bit more on that, maybe?
Many homes within Australia might serve food, for example, westernised food or food that residents may not have grown up with. And certainly as we see residents, with dementia or some kind of cognitive impairment, there also may be that sense of disconnect, and residents may not realise that they're in an aged care home and, not have that connection to the food being served. They may be taken back to their childhood moments in life. And so, being able to provide food where there is that sense of connection for residents, hopefully we can see, greater oral intake, reduced weight loss, and, obviously coming from the dietetic hat on, we do see a lot of malnutrition in aged care. So our goal as dietitians is really to reduce that risk of malnutrition. So being able to provide culturally appropriate food and include all residents, regardless of their culture and background, hopefully we can see increased oral intake and reduced weight loss overall.
The comment by Lisa on the question is, hi, Kiarra and Caroline, thank you for your presentation. It was great. Just wondering what aged care providers need to consider when planning diverse food options for people living with a disability or have issues with swallowing and other health issues. Anybody would like to take that question?
Certainly what we would do is take any menu and every home and personalise it. So if we just look at any kind of issues with swallowing, the standard thing that I do in menus at the moment is something called IDSI. So if your home is using IDSI, which is the international, the new dysphagia diet standard terminology, which is across many homes, but certainly not across all homes. So if you're using the older Australian standards, we would make sure that we have soft, minced and moist and pureed according to your menu. But then with the new IDSI levels, we have got soft and bite-sized, minced and moist, easy to chew, pureed. So every single item on the menu, we then have those options to accommodate for residents with swallowing issues, of course, following what speech pathologists recommend. And for people living with a disability, we would personalise according to those residents and what they require. Also looking at age, obviously today we're focusing on aged care, but we do see a lot of, the younger population, even in aged care homes with a disability. So we personalise menus, speaking to those residents and their families to ensure that they are tailored or included into the menu.
Just further to that, just to add that we encourage across all our homes that the dish of the day is also the texture modified, which may be the minced, moist or pureed. So that will keep so if it's a curry, it is still a curry and it's made with exactly the same flavouring profile as the main course.
There's another question from Barbara, a question I guess also a comment from her. So maybe that goes to you, Caroline. She's asking, I would love to hear more how others have incorporated such diversity in delivered meals. Many providers offer a diverse range, but they can be very standard to do after some unique suggestions. So what do you think about the issue that, I guess, providers provide more standard meals and and any sort of comments on that, Caroline?
I think the key to this is in the menu development. And I think the key is ensuring that your menu has been developed around your residents' requirements. And I think so the start of any menu should be go and talk to the residents and family and ask what they would like to see on the menu. And again, that will then be the building blocks for you to provide the menu that's suitable. And I know that's not always easy when you've got the different cultural backgrounds. Hence, that's why we introduced the Taste of Home, because when we had 23, we had to come up with a base menu, but then we had to build on that. And hence, that's why we developed the Taste of Home menu. So there was always the options to choose from. And I think Kiarra also, when she in her presentation mentioned you can always use external providers or get meals from elsewhere if it is for specific dietary requirements or cultural backgrounds.
Kiarra, in your presentation, you talked about the food focus groups, and you mentioned also, Caroline, the feedback from residents is really crucial. So it's all about co-designing with culturally diverse residents. I was wondering, at these food focus, what are some of the things that you would discuss with residents? You have already touched upon it, but maybe fleshed out a little bit more for all of us in the room, especially providers who want to do that and think about co-designing recipes and food with their residents. How can you do it, and what sort of questions you will ask, and how do you go about that?
Trying to bring as many residents into this meeting as possible, and even family members or translators to support residents who need that support. Really asking residents for feedback on the current menu that they're on, and also any time a menu changes between seasons. We want to continually be progressing and developing our menu, not using the same seasonal menu each year. So really, our residents are changing. So always, as residents are admitted, chatting to residents, but then in those food focus groups, really running through anything that residents didn't like that they would like to replace. And again, like Caroline mentioned, you can have special days where you might have a variety of meals that are celebrating certain cultural backgrounds on different days. Absolutely asking those kinds of questions, focusing on residents' preferences. And then if families around or residents have recipes, really trying to take those cooking with the residents if possible, or at least providing some kind of feedback system. So when you're cooking with the chef, for example, the resident has the opportunity to taste and provide feedback if you are going to add that recipe to the menu. I'd also love to just touch on the question just before, just on the providers. Yes, certainly providers might have limited options. What I would suggest is asking these meal providers, because they might not have something, when you ask them, but asking the question, are you able to create meals from, this culture? Can you create specific meals? Asking that question, where there's demand, you may actually have supply. So if you don't ask, they may not make those specific meals. And certainly an alternative may be possible in that you can cook meals and freeze them if the providers aren't able to create the types of meals that you require.
What challenges did you face in your program, and how did you overcome these challenges?
I'm going to say the big word in the room nobody wants to use: COVID. We introduced Taste of Home. It was working really, really well. And then COVID hit. And we then, being in Sydney, we had homes, we had staffing issues, we had difficulty getting chefs in the kitchen. So probably our biggest problem at the time was maintaining the Taste of Home menu. The day-to-day menu wasn't so much the issue, it was more the extra. So it was a matter of planning, working with the team and ensuring that we could still offer the menu, but we actually had to change our production process to accommodate that.
Lisa had a question to you, Kiarra. Does Oscar Care Group have dietitian-approved multicultural recipes for purchase or share?
Yes, absolutely. And it is to note that, recipes are always being developed. So again, ask and we can create, and that will be like most dietetic groups out there. Just ask, and if you provide any recipes as well that you'd like to be approved, dietitians can do that. So please ask away.
Now we have a question as well from Natalie. With mince, modified or vitamized food, how are they presented? Do you use a mold so they look similar to normal meals, so they look just as appetizing? Also, how did you get across different cultural foods to residents who are reluctant? For example, those residents who have had negative experience with the cultural food, or residents who like meat and 3 veggie only things. So anybody had experience with that?
On our menu, we have, so the options, there will be one westernized style meal. So it could be hypothetically a steak and onion pie, but the alternative meal will be a culturally diverse meal. So there is, first of all, there's always the option. Then in our case, we have the salads, and then we have the option of the alternative meals as well from the Taste of Home menu. So that's how we've tried to, and then the vegetarian option as well on top of that as well will either be a culturally diverse or a basic food, because a lot of residents don't like spicy food, so we have to definitely take that into consideration.
How do you make sure that that daily choices are always changing for residents, to make sure that people are not bored? Any advice or insights you can share?
So that actually goes back to the food focus meetings and a regular surveying of residents for feedback. So we offer a base menu that we change twice a year. However, we are changing on a regular basis. So if we get feedback that residents aren't enjoying a dish or would like to see something different, then we will change the dishes. So it isn't set in concrete. It's an ongoing development, but the underlying is a base menu. And again, that is supported. We have once or twice a month, definitely once a month, sometimes twice a month, we have cultural theme days. So we have those elements in as well, as well as barbecues and other events.
Thanks, that's great. I think a lot of providers, they do that. They celebrate cultural days, they have special days where special food is served. Now, the last question we have, and then we wrap it up, is from ARFA, with faith food, there's a need for strict food handling requirements. Are there chefs, attendees given their training, as I've heard about cross-contamination by using spoons, etc.?
There is plenty training out there, and that goes for this exact question, as well as, other cases of possible cross-contamination like celiac disease. So there is a lot of training for chefs out there and cooks and anyone that's in the kitchen on cross-contamination. So yes, absolutely, there is that out there. So I guess it will be a home by home basis, to be able to do that. And just to follow on from the question before as well, with menus, there are a lot of changes happening. It is recommended that going forward, and it will be, it's working on being mandated, but each menu, so that there is a summer menu, autumn menu, spring menu, and winter menu, and that they all include dietitian input. So they can be reviewed, via a desktop review. But going forward, it will be mandated that in every home, they need to have a minimum of an on-site menu assessment. And the great thing about this is inclusion and focus on cultural diversity. So, having someone on site as a minimum once a year can really help focus on cultural diversity and inclusion of residents and their food preferences.
So in terms of our webinar series, this is, one of our monthly webinar series. The next one that's going to come up is during Harmony Week. We're going to launch the Voices of Multicultural Community Leaders and a Vision for a More Inclusive Aged Care System. Then in April, coming up, recognizing multi-faith initiatives in aged care. Also, I think a very important topic. We have leaders from different faith communities to talk about what's an important in terms of aged care and faith. Then we have multicultural perspectives on mental health care, and then a face-to-face event in June. If you were here in Victoria or in Melbourne, we have a cultural awareness walk with Uncle Shane Charles around decolonizing Melbourne. This is our website. We have multilingual resources. We have communication cards in different languages, 68 languages, which support aged care providers. And some of you have maybe heard of them already, to help conversations or communication between aged care staff and residents. We're also translating them into phonetics and into different phrases. So please feel free to have a look at multilingual resources. Also, if you want to contribute and providing info and input into our advocacy, there's an option to participate and have your say survey to improve the aged care system for cold scenes. We got already quite a few feedback already, I think about more than 30, and we always include that in our reports to the Australian Department of Health and Aged Care, and it's really good. So what you think, we are always open to feedback, or anything that you think we need to consider, or please contact us or have a meeting with us at info@culturaldiversity.com.au. We did a joint module with the Australian Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission. Everybody has a story developing culture inclusive care. You can access that on the on that web link, or if you go to the Aged Care Quality and Safety Commission, there's the Alice platform. You can do that module and learn more about, if you're a home care staff or aged care manager, residential, you can access that module and learn a bit about what are some of the key things to consider when delivering culture inclusive care. Then we have a great podcast here. One size doesn't fit all. So we have Biljana has done 4 interviews with a number of leaders in culture inclusive care, and she is now at the moment developing further podcasts. So watch the space. There will be further interviews of older people from multicultural backgrounds and how they're how they have advocated, for example, for improved access for cold seniors to aged care services, for culturally diverse seniors to aged care services. Our practice guides, the most recent one is on culturally appropriate dementia care. It's not listed here, but it's, just examples of our practice guides, 10 steps developing a diversity, equity, inclusion plan in aged care, effective co-design. So we've spoken about that as well with consumers from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds, spirit support, working with interpreters, working with bilingual staff, culturally inclusive feedback. That's also important. And we also have information about culturally inclusive feedback on our website specifically, and feedback forms in a number of different languages, about 20 languages there. If you, want to promote the work that we do, you can download the poster, and then staff in different facilities or in your service can contact us and, access or require more information about what the Center for Cultural Diversity and Aging is doing. And in terms of the languages, what I mentioned before, this is a really important project. So any aged care provider who is funded or subsidized by the government can access free translations in aged care. So you can go to the website diversityagedcare.health.gov.au and read anything that you want to promote that is about, that's help to improve the care of people you provide support. Whether they're from Aboriginal communities, whether from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds, whether they are deaf or blind, you can make use of that project. We really encourage you to make use of that project because at the moment it's amazing because it's a free project. So we encourage you to have a look at their website and see if there's anything that you want to get translated, whether you have your own resources, whether it's your home care agreement, whatever it is, please make use of it. So we are part of the Partners in Culturally Appropriate Care Alliance. There's a Partners in Culturally Appropriate Care program provided in every state and territory, and we are the Victorian provider. And we work together to amplify the voice of CALD seniors, culturally diverse seniors, and also about advocating for culturally inclusive care and helping aged care providers to deliver more inclusive services.
Thanks everyone for attending and participating in today's webinar. I hope you liked our topic and enjoyed the webinar. For more information, visit us on our website, culturaldiversity.com.au, and follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and watch our videos on our YouTube channel. And thank you to Red Hat Films and Sarah, who is always helping us with our digital content. And thanks everyone, and I'll see you in the next webinar.